Hello and welcome to A Little Crafting. My name's Annie and I'm recording this from Surrey in the UK. Today is Saturday the 12th of December and this is my bi-weekly podcast where I talk about all the things that I've been making in the last 2 weeks. You can find me as Ankiwoo on Ravelry and on Instagram as cinnamonswirl.designs, and I'll pop all the details about everything I'm talking about today in the show notes, which will be in the description below this video. I'm going to start with what I'm wearing. So this is the Vintersol sweater by Jennifer Steingass, and I knit it I think 3 years ago before a skiing trip as my first skiing jumper, which has become a bit of a tradition. This is a colourwork yoke, and actually it's knit in quite an unusual way. So you start off by a provisional cast on underneath the yoke, you knit upwards, and then you pick up from the provisional cast on and knit downwards for the rest of the sweater and the sleeves. I have knit this out of Cascade 220. The green is the hunter green colour. The white is just white, and the silver grey, which is for the body, is the silver grey colour by Cascade 220. It's been quite well worn. I'll give you a bit of a story about this sweater. So when I initially knit it, it turned out quite big because my gauge was loosening up quite a bit. So I knit it initially before the skiing holiday, wore it during the skiing holiday, and the first thing that I adapted was I actually made a high collar, but because this is 100% wool, I actually think that wasn't the best idea. And then about a year later, or I think maybe 8 months later, I decided what I was going to do was re-knit parts of this sweater to make it fit better. So what I did, to the craft group's horror, is I actually unravelled all of the yoke and unravelled all of the sleeves, and then re-knit them. So I picked up the body and knit the colourwork yoke from the bottom up again, and then re-knit the sleeves after that. And that seemed to work out really well, although I know lots of people were a bit shocked that I was knitting out, kind of ripping out this beautiful colourwork yoke to then re-knit it. But to be honest, this is the most fun part of the sweater, so I wasn't too unhappy about knitting that. I think I did also at some stage re-knit part of the body to make it a bit thinner, but I'll stand up and actually show you what it looks like as well. So this is my lovely sweater. So it's got waist shaping, which I really like. The sleeves have do have the detail on the end, but they're quite long for me, so I tend to fold the cuff back over the detail anyway. They've also got detail on the bottom, if I can show you. So it's got this lovely colourwork detail at the base, and then the colourwork on the main part of the yoke in some places is 3 colour, but I did manage that quite easily. It took a while, that's all, because I was dropping the strands rather than holding them as I was going along for 3 colour work. This was my second ever jumper knit, so quite a feat I think, but I was really happy with it once I finally got it to the right size. And you'll see I took off that high collar and just did the collar that I think is in the pattern, which is just a basic bind off, but it looks really good with just in this case a green polo neck underneath, and I'm really happy with it, and I absolutely love wearing it in winter and for Christmas as well because it works very well as a Christmas jumper. So I've been doing that for a couple of years too, but yeah, absolutely love it. It has pilled a bit, but I probably just need to go over that with a gleaner and it will be fine. But yeah, super happy with that. Absolutely love the pattern, very well written, very well explained. I would highly recommend this if you want to try a 3 colourwork yoke. Like I said, it was my second sweater pattern, so can't be that difficult, can it? There you go. So I urge you to try it if you want to. So on to what I've actually been knitting, and I now have to tell you another story. So last weekend I did a huge amount of knitting on Saturday. Then my fingers kind of started to ache a bit after that. I also went climbing on the Sunday morning because I love climbing and we needed to go, and worked really hard on trying hard moves and going for things. Considering I hadn't been for 4 weeks, that probably wasn't the best idea, but essentially I have injured my finger. As a result of that, I have not been able to knit very much at all. I've done a bit of weaving but not really enough to show you anything, so unfortunately I don't have a huge amount of content from the last week. However, I did manage to do quite a bit the week before, so I do have some things to show. Basically I think I've sprained it. What I did was checked on the NHS guidelines, and they essentially said that if ice it, so there's this thing called RICE, which is rest, ice, compress and elevate. So I did that, and they said if that it doesn't feel better after 2 days, then go to A&E, but it did feel better after 2 days, so it's definitely improving. And I've also, what I've done is use some kinesiology tape just to support the finger, so that when I'm doing things around the house I'm not going to damage it too much, and I have that extra support to help the ligaments heal. So that's been helping a lot actually, and this is what's been allowing me to do some weaving. I highly recommend you get some kinesiology tape if you're doing any form of exercise which pulls on ligaments and tendons and things like that, because if you have a little slight tear, it can really help just keep those things in place. And you can have a look on YouTube for how you can actually attach the kinesiology tape, because there's special ways of doing it for different types of injuries, which is how I found out to do it this way. So basically I've got my orange tape there, I've got a bit of support pulling all the way along the tendon through my hand, and then a couple of bits just holding my joint, so that can help, because the injury is here. So yeah, I've got this lovely bit of orange tape on my hand every day to just keep things healing properly, but that does really stop me from doing the things I love at the moment, and it's an absolute pain to have your main index finger injured, because everything you do pretty much, either you have to push on it or hold something with it. So I'm doing most things with my other fingers on that hand. I am left-handed, so it is my main index finger. But there we go. Let's not make this a first aid channel. Let's actually talk about what I was able to knit in the last couple of weeks. So let's go on to knitting. The first thing is my best friend's owl sweater, which I mentioned last podcast. So if you have watched that episode, you'll remember that I knit the whole body and then realised that it was too big, so blocked it just to double check. What I have done since then, so this is, for anyone who doesn't know already, the Owls sweater by Kate Davies, and I'm knitting it in Drops Nepal in, I think it's the English rose colour, but I'll double check and pop the details down below. The colour number is 8912, but I know there are names as well. So let me rearrange this. Basically, what I have been able to knit since then, and probably the reason I injured my finger, is the whole of the body again. And I have tested this on myself to see whether it was the right size, and I think it will fit okay. It might be a little bit loose, but I don't think that's too bad for a sweater. It can be, you know, a nice cozy jumper too. So yeah, I've got the whole of the body section, and then I have also been knitting the sleeves. So these sleeves are being knit 2 at a time, and I have stopped. I think I'm about halfway up the sleeves now, but basically I thought it would be easier and more motivating to knit them 2 at a time this time, because you do get kind of second sleeve syndrome in the same way as you get second sock syndrome, really, where you kind of get bored after one sleeve and go, oh, I can't be bothered to knit another sleeve. So I thought 2 at a time would work better. So I'm making good progress on that, but it really depends on how well my finger heals before I can actually finish it for sure and get on to the fun part, which is the hours themselves. Yeah, so hugely excited to get onto that, but obviously limiting my excitement because I'm not allowed to do any knitting at the moment. We'll see how that goes. I'll have to update you in a couple of weeks after Christmas to let you know how well I've done with completing that one. I don't think it's the end of the world if I don't finish it for Christmas. I can always just tell my friend that she'll have it in January at some point, but I don't know, I don't like missing my own deadlines. That's my aim, and I had set a deadline of the 22nd of December. So we'll see. Again, I don't really want to overdo it if I have already injured my finger knitting a lot, so I might have to give myself a break, but I find it, I am the type of person who finds it really hard to do that, so we shall see. Either way, making good progress on that, considering that was all of that was done in 1 week. I haven't knit on it since then. So yeah, that is number one. My second project is one that I also have showed in the podcast before, and that's the Lyta shawl by Simone Kereit. So this one, just to remind you, I am knitting out of 2 different sport weight yarns. The kind of speckled sport weight yarn is Primrose Yarn Co. Rose Sport, and that is in the Sassy Pants colourway. The other one is Madeline Tosh Work Sock in the Arctic colourway. And I can't remember how far I was last time I showed this, but basically this time I have finished off the brioche section and started the next garter stitch section. So it's looking really lovely. And the shawl itself will have a small amount of garter stitch now, and then another brioche section which is a bit bigger that I'm looking forward to knitting. However, this project is for me, so ultimately it's not the end of the world when I finish it. I don't have a deadline in particular for this one, so it shouldn't be too bad if I wait until the new year to carry on. It is really enjoyable to knit overall, and I'm excited to have the final product, and I love the yarn as well, so all good. That's the reason I keep kind of doing a little bit on it. I think I've knit probably about 6 rows since last time, but let's see. It's kind of a nice palette cleanser when you've been knitting stockinette on a sweater or sleeves all day, so that's quite a good one to be knitting at the moment, and I do highly recommend the pattern if you're interested in brioche knitting. My third project in the last 2 weeks, just thinking about how much time has gone, is my Knitalong, which Sharon from Great British Yarns organised. So this is my Christmas Knitalong, and it involves a lot of different colours of Dererum Natura Ulysse. So I bought this as a kit, and we've got a WhatsApp group going where people can discuss where they are. Obviously, because of my hat and finger injury, whatever you want to call it, I have ended up having to stop at one point, but I thought I'd show you how far I am at the moment, and then hopefully this won't be any spoilers for anyone, because there's been a week's worth of clues since I stopped. So I just want to show you where I got to at this point, and I think this is, I'm just going to count up, 1, 2, 3, 4 days and a bit of the 5th day. So this is where I am at the moment. You'll see it's very, very colourful. You've got a lot of different colours of Ulysse in there. I'm going on to a white and I think this colour, which is fig in this next section. I think it's a bit big. It is a hat. I think it would be a bit big for me, but because of the colour work in this strands, I think it won't grow very much when it gets blocked. That's the word. So I think it should be okay as a gift knit. I'm not sure who I will give it to, but I'm sure I'll find someone at some point. Like I said, several colours of Dererum Natura Ulysse, which is one of my favourite yarns. So I've got this big bag of all of them in here, and I won't use up all that much for this knit along, so I will probably end up weaving with a lot of these balls once I've finished that hat. I am knitting the hat on 2.75mm and 3mm needles, so there's 2 sets needed, one larger, one smaller. And there we go. I believe in my Vlogmas today I have another treat to open for this knit along, so watch out for that if you are watching my Vlogmases at the moment. And that's all the knitting content I have for this week, unfortunately. I think I'd have got a lot further if I hadn't hurt myself last time. But I thought I'd talk a bit about kind of my future plans for the beginning of 2021 and kind of winter up until March, and the kind of things I want to knit, because the thing that I've been doing whilst I've been injured is actually just looking at yarn and looking at patterns. So dangerous stuff, making plans when I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do anything, but hey ho, that's the way it works. So the first thing I want to say that I'm going to be doing, and I'll pop a picture right here, is knitting the boho style mosaic cardigan by Irene Lynn. So this was a pattern that was gifted to me for my birthday by a couple of my friends, and it's a really long cozy cardigan. What I'm going to do is knit this out of Dererum Natura Gilliatt, because that is one of my favourite yarns. Actually, that is my favourite yarn at the moment, and I'm going to knit it in opposite colours. So instead of having the grey as the main colour, I'm going to have a blue as the main colour. I'll show you what that looks like. Now, sorry for the crinkling. Oops, and I've lost a ball on the floor. So these are the colours that I'm going to be using. So you've got Nuit, which is this kind of bright royal blue. This is Geoland or Geoland, I'll say it in English, it's fine, which is just a mottled grey, and then the white kind of colour is Poivre Blanc, which is what I knit my Georgetown cardigan out of. So this is just going to be an offset colour, and this is going to be a huge lovely cozy cardigan, so I really want to get it done this winter so that I can make use of it and wear it when I'm working from home over the top of just a t-shirt and some jeans, because that's just going to be great. It's basically a coatigan really. I imagine it will take me quite a while, but I'm also really excited to have it. The second thing that I'm gonna look at knitting is also in Dererum Natura Gilliatt, and that is the Weekender sweater by Andrea Mowry. So this one I've had quite a while in my queue, but I was originally going to knit it out of some Gilliatt that I already had that I ended up using for another sweater. So I decided to buy myself some more a few months ago in a colour that I really love, and that is Ciel. So I'll pop a picture of the Weekender up here so that you can see what it looks like. So Ciel is a really nice light blue, and I've done a lot of weaving with this colour because it's absolutely gorgeous. I'll see if I can do a bit of a close-up. So it's got some really nice kind of mottled white and grey bits in it, so it's not kind of a pure light blue, but it's just a stunning colour, and I think it really suits me. So I'm gonna go for a full sweater in that, and I think the Weekender is actually knit in reverse stockinette, so you kind of knit it inside out and then switch it round, which seems like a really cool concept. So I love the look of it as just a cozy throw-on sweater, and I think that's what we need the most at the moment, as it's colder and everyone's kind of at home for the most part. It's lovely to have something cozy and warm to wear like a big hug. The last thing that I'm going to show you that I'm thinking of knitting in January or February is the Ingalls sweater by Caitlin Hunter. Now again, I've had this in my queue for quite some time because I got some yarn a couple of years ago that I decided to knit this out of, but for some reason I've never got round to actually knitting it, probably because other things came up and I went, oh, I really want to make that, but I'm gonna make sure I knit it this year because I absolutely love the idea of having this sweater. And I'm not so keen on the lacy part, so I'll pop a picture just up here again. So I'm going to omit those because I had a look at the pattern and I think you can quite easily, and just go for the kind of main colour work yoke section. The yarn that I'm going to use is Madeline Tosh Twist DK, and I got this a couple of years ago in a Black Friday sale shipped across from the US. The colours that I'm using are this one, which is an absolutely beautiful red. It's the Red Woman, which is based on the Red Woman from Game of Thrones, who is a fantastic character. I love what she does in the last season, although I'm not going to spoil that for anyone. And yeah, it's just gorgeous. And then as the other colour, so the kind of contrast colour for the colour work, I'm using Paper, which is kind of an icru colour. I always have a lot of icru in my stash just because it's a really nice way of offsetting against other colours. So this will be the contrast. To give you a bit of an explanation about DK Twist, it's 100% merino, just high twist, which makes it work better for sweaters and not pill so badly. If this wasn't a high twist, it would probably pill much more. So yeah, I was inspired by Caroline of the Vicarious Knitting podcast to get some DK Twist, but I probably would not buy any from the States again, just because it did end up costing almost as much as buying it from the UK. And I got a bit stung on the customs fees. I'm sure it's probably worse now than it was then as well. So yeah, really looking forward to that. I'm going to try helical knitting for this one. I just need to actually do it. That's the plan. So if I say something on the podcast here, that holds me accountable, doesn't it? You can all remind me of what I need to be knitting when I get distracted. That's the way it is, isn't it? Too many things to knit, not enough time. Anyway, so I think I've got a very sweater centered January and February, but I do love knitting sweaters because I feel like they're the kinds of things that I get the most wear out of. Also, I could have 20 sweaters and still wear them all the time. If I had 20 scarves or 20 shawls, I don't think I would wear them all. So I think sweaters are the way to go. And yeah, I'm excited to have them done and be a monogamous knitter, maybe. I don't know, is that ever gonna happen? I have about 10 projects on the go at the moment, it's mad. Yeah, so that's future plans at the moment. I might mention some of the other things I'd like to knit in the next podcast, which will be after Christmas at this point. Lastly, the thing that I want to talk about is my plans for a Christmas Eve cast on, and I think this was initiated by Danny of Little Bobbins Knits, and the idea is that you cast something on Christmas Eve as a bit of a treat for the run up to the Christmas period, just to chill out and do some knitting on Christmas Eve. So I am going to join in this year, and I think a few members of my craft group are also going to. So I thought I would host a bit of a knit along with a giveaway. And what I've done is now set up a Ravelry group for a little crafting, and I'll pop the link to that in the description below. And I'm going to offer a prize at the end of January for people who have finished their projects. So the prize is going to be the skein of yarn from Adventures in Yarncraft in her mistletoe and holly colour, and it will be a merino sock base skein. I'm going to limit this to UK residents only, just because I know the shipping, in particular to the US, and also possibly to Europe, now that we're coming up to Brexit on the 1st of January, eventually happening, is possibly going to affect the cost of posting that. So I'm going to say UK residents only for the prize, but feel free to join the chatter group if you're elsewhere and you want to. That's absolutely fine. So I will have a finished objects thread on the Ravelry group where you can post your finished objects, and I will pick a winner from that. I'm really looking forward to seeing this yarn. I've ordered it, but it's I've done the order on demand rather than ready to ship, so it will have to be dyed and then shipped to me possibly after Christmas, I imagine, at this point. So excited for that. In terms of my plans for my Christmas Eve cast on, I've decided what I'm going to do is knit some socks out of my West Yorkshire Spinners this year's Silent Night yarn, which is their Christmas colourway for this year, and I'll show you what that looks like. So it's lovely and blue and sparkly. Rather than just knitting a basic vanilla sock, what I'm going to do is actually try knitting the Sprocket Socks by Megan Nodecker. So this is kind of a sock that has slip stitches, so it adds a little bit more detail to the striping. I think she makes it out of mini skeins or scraps. I'm going to have a go with the stripy colourway and see if I can have the same effect. And we'll see how that goes. But basically, I'm going to go for that. I think lots of people will be joining me, and hopefully we'll get some lovely things that people have knit to show in the episodes in January. You can knit anything that you like, it doesn't have to be socks. So anything you think you can finish between Christmas Eve and the 31st of January, just go for it and pop a picture in the finished objects thread to be able to win a prize. And that's it in terms of my crafting this week. Just in terms of life stuff, still working from home. That's not really going to change for the foreseeable future. Obviously was going climbing, not currently. Let's see when I can go back to that. I just think I really need to make sure my finger is okay before pulling on it a lot. And then otherwise we're getting ready for Christmas. I'm having my parents and my sister round, with kind of, as per the restrictions for the UK, we are only allowed, I think, 3 households for Christmas, but that works absolutely fine. It's the first time we're going to be hosting my parents, so that's a bit nerve-wracking, but we'll see. I think everything will be okay. I just need to plan. That's the thing, planning is key. And then, yeah, hopefully back to crafting soon. I still have the bags to make for my family. Yeah, I think I might be able to do sewing with my finger wrapped up. I'm going to try tomorrow and see what happens. Otherwise I do have a couple of little things that I can give them if the sewing can't be done before Christmas. And yeah, that's it essentially. To anyone watching who doesn't watch my other videos, I am probably going to have a break next week, and therefore I'd better say Merry Christmas right now. I will probably record something between Christmas and New Year, and have a wonderful festive period. Happy holidays to anyone who doesn't celebrate Christmas. Happy Hanukkah to anyone who is Jewish, and enjoy any time off that you have. I think this year's a bit strange, but it's still good to spend some time relaxing, even if you don't get to go away or do much with family or anything like that. Still make the most of it. It's good to have time off work. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and feel free to have a look at my other videos. Like I said, I'm doing Vlogmas at the moment, but I will come back with something between Christmas and New Year. Have a wonderful festive period. Bye.